What's up, everybody? I'm Tim from Timber Ridge Gifts. So I just got back from vacation, had an amazing time, and just like everybody else, I went souvenir shopping. But while the wife and the daughters were off looking at t-shirts and seashells, I of course naturally went looking for the candles. And honestly, I really didn't find that much. Believe it or not, the beach is not a huge candle destination apparently. The surf shops carry some great t-shirts, but their candle selection's pretty thin. So I decided the next best thing was to find a souvenir that I liked, bring it home with me and make a candle out of it myself. So I found this gorgeous coffee mug. Got a great looking sea turtle on it, the name of the beach where I was at. Apparently it's a really popular destination for sea turtles. So this is what I decided on. This is the souvenir I wanted. So we're going to make a candle out of this, and I thought I'd share it with you guys. So this video is going to be our tutorial on how to turn a coffee mug into a candle. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's cover the supplies we're going to need. We're going to need our coffee mug, of course. We're going to need our wax. I'm going to be using the Midwest container wax from American Soy Organics, which will work great in this type of container. Next, you're going to need your fragrance oil. I'm using Mango Papaya from Aztec. It's got an amazing, really tropical beach scent. If you guys have never tried this, you need to check it out. And to finish it off, I'm going to dye it using the teal candle dye from Lone Star Candle Supply. Figure the teal and the tan of the cup would give it like a really nice sandy beach type scene. So hopefully that'll work out. I'll show you guys how to test that once we get going. And last but not least, we're going to need our wicks. We'll talk about these more in a minute when we actually go over how to wick this candle. So first things first, we got to figure out what dimensions and sizes we're actually working with. Now, any coffee mug you buy, it's really not going to have any dimensions or measurements on it. So we're going to have to measure it and figure it out for ourselves. So the first thing we need to do is figure out the volume that this is actually going to hold. Now to do that, it's really simple. There's no math or trickery involved. We're just going to take our scale, turn it on, set our candle mug on it, zero it out. Now we're just going to fill it with water. However much water it holds, that's how much wax it's going to hold. I've already done this earlier. This holds exactly 16 ounces or 1 pound. So we know that this is going to be a 1 pound candle. So the next thing we need to do is figure out our dimensions, see how big this candle is, because that's going to be really important when we go to wick it. Just take you any type of tape measure. I found that a tailor's tape works really well, just because it's a lot more flexible and easier to work with. So I measured this earlier. Our top dimension is 4.5 inches. Bottom is exactly 4. So because this is a one-off item, I'm not going to make 4 or 5 of these to test to find out exactly what wick size and combination is going to work best. So we're going to have to rely pretty heavily on our wick guides. The most reliable one that I like to use is on Candle Science's website. I'll leave a link for that in the description. But let's talk about what we've got here. So we got 4 inches on the bottom, 4.5 inches on the top. The issue we do run into once we get up to this size is 4.5 inches is right around the area where you need to start considering using a double wick. So according to our wick guide for the dimensions on this, we can get by with an Eco 14 wick. I could wick this with an Eco 14. It would probably be just fine. However, because of the differences in the dimensions, I don't really want to get too aggressive with it. I mean, I could get really aggressive, put an Eco 14 wick in there. The top dimensions would handle it great. But once we got to the bottom, it might get a little bit hot. If it was 4.5 inches the whole way, we can get by with it. But because it gets a little bit smaller at the bottom, we want to be a little bit conservative. So I'm going to double wick this one. To do that, it's really simple. You're basically just taking your dimensions, dividing them in half. If you wanted to draw it out, it would look something like this. So we've got our outer dimension of the candle. And on the inside, we've got our 2 inner dimensions. The dots are where we're going to place our wicks. So you can see the melt area that each wick is going to be responsible for. I like to have a little bit of overlap when I am combining wicks. So for the 4.5 inch top, I actually measured out for 2.5 inch individual wicks. So it gives me 5 inches total coverage, so I can overlap them in the middle. That's going to create a little bit more radiant heat. That's going to fill in these blank areas that you see that aren't covered by the projected melt pool area. Just because those aren't covered, there's going to be enough radiant heat in the candle. It's going to take care of that. It's going to create a nice melt pool. So we can consult our wick guide and see that we're going to need 2 Eco 2 wicks to equal the dimensions that we need to fill. So finding your wick size to double wicks, really not that hard. It can be hard if you make it, so don't make it hard. Just measure it, divide it in half, bump it up just a tiny bit. That'll give you your middle coverage, and there you go. So all that's left is to go ahead and wick them. We're going to wick this just like we would any other container candle. But we're just going to keep one thing in mind when we do that. And that is where we're actually going to place our wicks as we're viewing the candle. You can place them just anywhere, but I want people to be able to look at the front of this candle and have the wicks evenly lined up. So we've just got to be conscious of that when we're wicking it. Get it lined up with the dimension dots that I put in there earlier. Okay, so I've got it wicked just the way I want it. We're going to go ahead and secure those wicks with a couple wick bars. Alright, now we're just going to set this aside. We're going to go ahead and start melting our wax now. We're going to be using the Alex method. If you've never seen that, check out the link to my video covering that right there. It's a great method, especially for container candles. Real nice, simple to understand, easy to use. We'll pretty much give you great results every time, so you guys make sure you check that out. But for now, we're just going to wait and let this melt, and I'll be back in a few minutes. Alright folks, we're melted down. We're ready to add our fragrance oil and our dye. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Alex method, basically we're heating to 150, adding our fragrance oil and our dye, letting that cool to 100 degrees before we pour our candle. So we've melted to 150, now we're ready to add everything. We're going to go ahead and add our fragrance oil. We're adding 2 ounces, which is going to give us a 12% fragrance load. And now we're going to go ahead and add our candle dye. And when you're using liquid candle dye, a lot of them have a color shade guide actually on the bottle, or if not on the website where you bought it. That can be kind of helpful, but it's still a little bit hit or miss kind of guessing game, because it's going to be a lot darker when it's in liquid form. Then when you pour it, it's going to lighten up quite a bit, especially in soy wax. Let me show you guys a real quick trick to take a little bit of the guessing game out of using the liquid candle dye in your soy wax. And to check our color, all we're going to do is take a couple spoons that I put in the freezer earlier. These are nice and cold. We're just going to dip it into our melted wax, pull it out. It's going to instantly freeze. And that's the color that our melted candle is going to be. You can see the liquid wax is actually a lot darker. Once it lightens up, it's going to be that color. And that's actually not as dark as I wanted it. So because I know now, I can go and add a little bit more liquid dye. And we're going to check it again. Yep. And now we've got it just right. I'm going to go ahead and put our spoons out of the way. Now we're just going to let this cool until it reaches about 100 degrees. And we'll be ready to pour our candle. Okay, so we've cooled to 100 degrees. Now we're going to pour this just like we would any other candle. Now we're just going to let this cool. I'll see you guys in a few hours, and we'll see what the finished candle looks like. It's a few hours later and we're back. My coffee mug candle has completely dried. As you guys can see, it turned out great. So now with a little bit of candle know-how, I've got the souvenir that I really wanted. So we're going to find a spot right there on the candle shelf. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Making coffee mug candles can be really fun, and it can actually be a pretty good way to source your containers. You can get used coffee mugs just about anywhere, from thrift stores, Goodwill, yard sales. You can find some pretty nice ones that are really cheap, and now you guys know how to turn them into candles. You guys make sure you subscribe to my channel, go through my playlists, check out all the other great videos I've got. Thanks for watching, everybody.